But I remember hanging up the phone and feeling so guilty that I wasn't there, that I'm not there to lend comfort, as her husband, or be there for my daughter who could be in danger.
Hi, and welcome to DADennial. My name is Mike Trenk, and as you can figure, I'm a dad. I feel that's how a lot of other podcasts start, and those dads will tell you what their day's like. They'll probably talk about what it's like being a dad today too. But along with being a dad by day, I'm also a mental health counselor by night in my own private practice. As a clinician in private practice, and one of those dads sitting in pick up and drop off lines for school, I wanted to share what I see in this ever-changing world. So together, let's create the best version of being a millennial dad. Welcome back to DADennial. It's an old friend, but maybe new to some people. My friend Ceasar Fernandez, he has joined me on today's episode. We're going to discuss about Homedadcon. I got the opportunity, as I was saying for the last few months, that I got to speak at Homedadcon, and I got to present about DADennial and kind of some of the things I talk about in the podcast, some of the things I talk about to myself, to friends, to neighbors if they want to listen. So wanted to review Homedadcon today, review what I saw, and Ceasar was awesome enough to come along, and we went to Homedadcon together and went to go see my presentation as well. So appreciate that, Ceasar. And welcome back. How you been?
Good, man. It was nice to go up there. It was nice for you to invite me to join you over there. That was dope. It was interesting. I never thought I'd see something so open among guys. You know what I'm saying? Everything was everybody seemed so honest and so nice. Right from the jump, it was a really welcoming environment.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, it was a good experience. Yeah, I think the first thing, I guess if I just think in my mind of the psychology sense of what's the first thing that pops in your mind, and that would be the truest and most honest thing to let out. And for me, just the first thing I thought of was just a sense of calm. I think a combination, if I think about it for myself, of a weekend away. So I'm not with screaming kids or anything. I'm just not with family. It was kind of a flashback too of going back to, it's almost felt like sometimes of being around Ceasar, who we used to live together close to 25 years ago now, somewhere in that range. It was almost that reset of seeing it. I was an adult of remembering, because that was the first time me and you stayed together in a room, I think. At least it felt like it. So
yeah, since college dorms.
Yeah, so it was that weird thing of weird and cool in the sense of we got to spend time together, we got to catch up, which we get to do every now and then, but it was that thing we got to stay overnight, and it was almost that thing of you get up all right, what do you want to do for breakfast? What should we do? It's kind of that reflection, kind of calm of looking back now and think, we told some good stories and had some good times. Mm-hmm. And meeting all the guys at Homedadcon, meeting Keith, Danny, who I did the podcast with, and Brock. Mm-hmm. You could just tell the energy. You could tell you're in a safe place, you're in a calm place.
Yeah.
Just be you, and worrying about deadlines or times, because there was the 3 days of things going on every day from 8 o'clock in the morning with breakfast, to morning presentations, and then lunch in the afternoon. So it could go all day if you wanted it to be. I feel they made it clear right away of hey, this is your weekend away. You want to go take a nap? Go take a nap. You want to go, go get coffee or go walk around? Go walk around, pick and choose. You don't have to do everything. It's not mandated by any stretch. It's your thing there. So that
was probably the best part, is that right from the get-go, they were very honest of, this is a weekend for you dads to treat yourself in a way. Self-care was the theme, I think, the first day.
Yep.
At least from the first presentation. And they really promoted that of, if you want to take a nap, get out of here. You don't have to go through any of the breakout sessions that were, specific to certain type of situations or issues that some guys were dealing with, or even like sewing was one of the presentations to learn how to sew.
Yep, I saw the old Singer 3000 getting wheeled in there after that.
But I mean, like right from jump, it was about they really promoted the self-care. You're here, take advantage of it. You don't have to go through every presentation. Go take a walk, see the city, have a few beers, whatever, if you're into that. Some drinks. And which we did. We took advantage of it. You know what I mean? And it was nice. It was nice to relax.
Yeah, I think in that calm aspect there, and then this is, I think the conversation is DADennial in the sense of realizing, understanding, and I think for you, even more so than me being honest, of like I know when I kind of put in my schedule with my wife and my family of like, all right, I'm taking this weekend, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go do something. And I know talking to you that like that's something you really haven't done for yourself, right? You've done a lot of family stuff, you've done things as couples, but what kind of solo stuff? Maybe, this was an opportunity of, all right, it's a safe place I could just kind of like, because it is different. It's not how it was when we were in our 20s. It wasn't, how many beers could we drink before 8 o'clock or what was the best buffet? It's, it's different. Like we're out, but like it's weird because we have families and kids, younger kids, you have older kids, but still being part of their day-to-day life. Where even you would say like, oh, I'd be at the bus stop. I'd be, we're dropping them off right now. So
yeah.
So
that was interesting. Like for me, because I don't go out by myself very much at all. In terms of like taking a trip, getting on an airplane and going somewhere. And I did feel guilty about it, not being around, which you heard me say a lot while I was there. But the interesting part, when I was at the airport in North Carolina, I went to the airport. I go to this airport all the time. We fly all over the place together as a family. We go to Dominican Republic or go to Europe or whatever, New York. And it was the first time that I had been there without my wife in like 20 years. And usually my wife is very, she'll go, she knows exactly where she's going. So I'm just following her. She's got her power walk on, like she's not messing around. She's very efficient in that airport. So I'm just following like a little puppy, you know what I'm saying? So I walk into the airport, I park my car in the thing, I walk in and I'm almost lost. I'm like, holy crap, I haven't done this in so long. Well, gotta go read the signs, I guess, and just, go through my TSA pre-check, which is the first time I've done that since I got it, which is very nice. And then just follow the signs to the gate, which is so simple, you know what I mean? But there was a moment where I was going back and realizing I haven't done this by myself in nearly 2 decades.
Right.
And there was an initial sense of confusion, which it sounds silly, but I just don't have to do it like that. It's like out of practice of just reading a simple sign at an airport, which departure gate you're going to be. And the gate had changed. It was one gate in the morning and then it changed in the afternoon. So I look at my phone, I go to the old gate that was there in the morning, and then I was like, oh, that's right, I have to read the departure list and go to the correct gate to the flight. Yeah, like it's such a stupid thing, but that's a little thing of I have not taken a trip by myself in so long that it was a nice getaway, and it was nice to remember what it was like to almost be independent.
Right. Even
taking a Lyft, that was the first time I had ever requested a Lyft on my phone or an Uber. First time in my life. This thing's been around for like 12 years or whatever.
Feels a level of independence again, right?
Yeah. I've never done that. My wife always has it on her phone. She's the one in charge of it. I'm always like, oh, let's walk. It doesn't matter. I'll just walk to wherever I need to go. And it's always her that does it. So this is the first time I downloaded it when you told me you weren't going to be able to pick me up at the airport. I downloaded it in Charlotte so that when I landed in Milwaukee, I had everything all set up. So, which just gave me something to do. But I was like, oh, this is fascinating. You know what I'm saying? This is like, I've never had this moment.
So you're discovering exactly what I think we saw a lot of at the conference, what I think we both read separately and together in terms of hearing about guys and their loneliness and not having friends, not having just partnerships, just kind of things that they do is like that's theirs, like that's something special, especially in this case where it's like dads at home, and a lot of them, including myself, at times, struggled with like that self identity of, well, I'm a dad at home, but I feel like there should be more. Like maybe it's something more. Like what else? What other parts of me? And you even got a chance to now rediscover that part of you. In the psychology sense, I've been saying it for years and try to practice that too. Of it's like all the pieces of that puzzle of or holding up that chair. Of, right, when you have a family, there's family time, there's couples time, and there's alone time. Whether that's the daily gym or things you can maybe do alone. And there's also time with friends to kind of keep that relationship going and like realizing that like, all right, that's not what it was 20 years ago, but it can still and has to be something because it's important to kind of just use that part of the brain every now and then.
Yeah.
What it used to feel like in terms of like, oh, I could still go out and just have fun, relax, and do things. And I don't know if you bring up or discuss it all of that Friday of that guilt.
No, yeah, definitely. Okay.
The feeling of guilt, where something, I'll let you get into it, but I was just going to say if where we get in Thursday night, things are good, and we're feeling calm, we're feeling relaxed.
Yeah.
And, you're just kind of going through this feeling of guilt, and then something that can snap you back into reality is, so for you, Friday morning, you found out there was a lockdown due to what they thought was a weapon, but ended up being a hoax, I guess.
Yeah. So on Thursday night, we had just gotten there. Everybody was super friendly, very welcoming. It was my first time there. It was your first time there. We had little gift bags with T-shirts and beer stein, whatever, pint glass, and a schedule of what was going to go down for the weekend, here and there. And then we had dinner, which was good. And then, people had beers and stuff after the fact. But Friday morning, we had, I think at first we had breakfast, and then there was like an opening presentation. I think the gentleman's name was Danny.
Yep.
I believe the first one. And his focus was self-care. And one of the slides that he had was sometimes guilt sets in when you're trying to take care of yourself. And, I was like, yeah, that makes sense sometimes, but I've already been, I've been a parent for 15 years. And my kids are older than a lot of the other parents that were there, and a lot of the other dads. So I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm almost done with this shit. That's what I'm thinking. Like, it's almost over. So we leave that first presentation. It's about 45 minutes long to an hour. And I go to the gym to get a quick workout in. And my wife calls me telling me that there's a active shooter situation at my daughter's high school. And she's not doing well, obviously. I'm on the treadmill, trying to get my sweat on. And then I let her know, hey, why don't you call this, that, and the other, call these people, because I can't help you from where I'm at. And so she goes ahead and calls some friends of ours just to kind of see what the status is. But I remember hanging up the phone and feeling so guilty that I wasn't there, that I'm not there to lend comfort, as her husband, or be there for my daughter who could be in danger with an active shooter situation at the high school. And there's panic going on, there's car line, there's cars, parents trying to pick up their kids, and I'm not one of them. So I had to accept that, like that guilty feeling of, yeah, I'm going to this Homedadcon and I'm trying to take care of myself in a way, hang out with my friend for the weekend and, have a new experience in a new city that I've never visited before. But that guilty, like feeling, like I felt like that pressure on my shoulder, like rain of guilt, just like soaking me for like a good 2.5 hours after that. And I told you about it, how I was feeling. I felt awful that I wasn't there with my family at the time. And granted, the whole situation was a hoax. It was on the news. People were just messing around, but it was the whole area, the whole zip code was in a state of panic for like a good hour and a half.
Right. No, it touches on a few things, not just the guilt, but just of that, feeling of I can't be there. I can't, what do I do? But you can't do anything. A feeling of just, hopelessness almost, a little bit there, helplessness. And, not that I ever want to a weekend away to ever have that come up, but
Right.
I think that working through that is an important kind of tool to have too. I mean, for the dads, for people that are out there regularly, not just for their work or
Yeah.
those things come up of how they probably feel too. That feeling of guilt or helplessness of I got to be on the road and got to make that sale or got to do this to home, and I'm sure they have those feelings too. So it's important to bring up because those are unfortunately everyday things coming up in America that family, as mom and dads, we unfortunately are every now and then, and that's pretty sad. But just
And I don't know if you remember, we grew up in Connecticut. I remember the Sandy Hook situation in whatever it was, elementary school.
Yeah, elementary. Yeah.
From where I grew up, that's like 25 minutes away from where I grew up. And I remember looking at the kids' last names and see if there's possibility that know some parents that I went to school with, that have to deal with that stuff. But it could happen to anybody, anywhere, at any time.
Now fast forward, so I'm glad that everything worked out. Everything was okay. They were safe, and I think that Friday, because of that after that information, we kind of took a walk and got to explore around. Friday morning, we walked around. That's where we went to the Fonzie statue.
The bronze Fonz, that's what they call it.
I did not know that. I wish I knew about that.
I did my research, man. When going to Milwaukee, you got to know what you're getting into.
Some weird stuff. We went back for lunch and started talking and meeting with some people, and you could just kind of tell, even in this early part of the conference, that everyone was very open. Everyone just kind of wanted to talk. It wasn't that thing of standoffish or just like I don't know who you was. Right. All right, we all have one thing in common here. We all are dads. We all are at home at least a couple hours a day more than usual, or home all the time, or different situations. So I feel like people were put at different tables and trying to meet different people too.
Yeah. So one of the things I remember was, again, because of that morning and that call from my wife and the active shooter situation, I did speak to the guy who presented that morning, Danny, and I told him, I was telling him what happened, and I was like, no, I told him his presentation was very enlightening. The way that he mentioned the guilt and the self-care, and how to get past that, and that's a very normal reaction and everything. And I thanked him for that. I shook his hand. I said, thank you for that. It was very informative. But a lot of that was going on, I don't know, maybe like a younger me, like a very immature me would have called a lot of these guys soft. You know what I mean? But now as a dad, there was a lot of emotions that were coming out from everyone. And it was like you mentioned, you were in a safe place there. You had people that shared your views in a way. There was a lot of just camaraderie that was developing, and some guys apparently had been there for years, and this is their one time a year during this convention where they see the guys. One guy from California, we met one guy from Phoenix who really liked Milwaukee water. He was talking big about the water quality in Milwaukee. I guess they don't have good water quality in Phoenix or something. That was a good conversation for 20 minutes. Yeah. And then, my guy from California talking to the guy from Phoenix, one guy in St. Louis, another guy from Boston, one guy in Raleigh, and they all hang out every once a year, and they all meet up and just share their stories and just hang out together. And sometimes a hug gets passed around. You know what I mean? Sometimes you need that connection, and it was nice. It was nice. It was like I said, it was very welcoming.
Yeah, and maybe even for yourself of. Obviously, not being there that Friday brought a lot of emotions, but you were still in a safe place. You still had me and just people around that, and kind of showing you in the general sense too of having that support, right? Even if you were home and you were going through that you're decompressing after being dead. If you were trying to pick up your daughter and doing everything, trying to take care of everything, if you would need time to do something, and you probably never have done that before. So now maybe realizing too of that's kind of good to have someone. Maybe next time when I'm go through something serious to reach out, kind of puts it in your mind of normalizes it more. It brings it back to kind of learn and grow. And then to your point of the soft, soft of that's kind of the learned behavior. And I think we talked about it in prior episodes of the cultural aspect of that too, right? Of you don't show emotions, you just shake it off, kind of thing.
Yeah. Right. The masculinity comes out. It flex a little bit. Yeah,
and that's the easiest way to kind of push down those emotions and just not think about it, right? That's what you're doing. You're not thinking about anything. That's what I was taught. That's what I know. That's all I'm going to do. Easy and simple, right? So when you start adding layers to that submarine sandwich there, starts getting a couple extra cold cuts on top, some lettuce. Those are all the emotions, man. It's not just two pieces of white bread there.
What was cool too is the diversity that we saw at that joint. There was people of all, races, ethnicities, ages, people that had babies, all the way to people that had children that are in their 20s. One of the gentlemen I remember saying he had like a 25-year-old, like a 19-year-old, like a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, like so spread out.
Yeah, there was.
It was an array, like a variety.
There was a wide array. That was good to see too, to kind of see of common threads that you could kind of tell, right? No matter what part of the country, no matter what kind of dad you were, race, creed, color, kind of thing. If it didn't matter, that you still kind of experienced some of those similar things because of the whole DADennial piece here. Of as I was saying on Saturday during my presentation of DADennial is what we're all experiencing in a sense, right? That's reason I came up with what I did, kind of going through that backstory again of, just not having anywhere to go, not anyone that could understand. I think one of the things that was brought up was when's the women's stay-at-home moms conference?
One of the guests at the hotel was asking, "Hey, what are those shirts that you guys are wearing?" He's like, "Well, when's Home Mom Con or something like that?"
Well, there's still those things there that you'd think something, as we see in the demographics, that more women are in boardrooms, more women are in higher level jobs that are the breadwinners of the family, and due to daycare costs and healthcare and other things that are specific to America, that in our case, my specific case, if I can work nights and kind of work by myself, and so other people like, all right, you just work full time. And I think there's actually a great point about it. I was watching Bill Maher last week. So they were talking specifically about the Barbie movie, and he was using the phrase zombie lies, and he was using that term in terms of that in the movie that Barbie goes to the Mattel board and trying to fight against the 12 white men at the boardroom. And, he's showing her like being a strong woman to stand up for what she believes in. That's great. And that's been, something I feel like I've heard my whole life. Like, trying to stand up, trying to move forward, trying to break the glass ceiling. And then he showed if you actually go online and you see what Mattel's board member is, there's, of the 10 of them, 4 women. There's 1 male minority, and there's 5 white men. Mm-hmm. So it's not 12. It's not it's getting closer. It's getting better. It's not exactly where it should be, but still of like that myth or that kind of zombie way of thinking of if she's trying to break the glass ceiling, but it's being broken. We're working towards it.
I think that's part of the message of the movie too. You know what I'm saying? We gotta
I haven't seen the whole movie.
The movie's fantastic. If you have not seen the Barbie movie, I highly recommend it. We went as a family. My daughter has seen it 3 times, but we went all together. We all wore pink, try to color coordinate. I think everybody in the movie theater, wore pink.
I look like a piece of bubble gum if I wear pink.
Probably. But yeah, no, I thought it was fantastic. I thought the message was really good. But yeah, I know they're exaggerating some things, but still, it was excellent. It was an excellent movie. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, that was just kind of like a side note of that, but of that a way of thinking in that general sense there of putting this in a movie, kind of portraying that of things are shifting. Like the movie may have been great, and hopefully next time we spend time together, maybe we'll watch it together, get some popcorn.
No, they talk big about the patriarchy, and we talked about that too. I think on Saturday, we had mentioned it. I think we were hanging out. Everybody was getting ready to watch some college football.
Yep.
After one of the breakout sessions in the morning, and we could talk about that masculinity sometimes that keeps us quiet as men. That we don't want to share certain things to appear weak in front of another man, and it's perpetuated not only like by men but also women that have also been established in this culture. Like that lady that said, "When is home mom con?" Maybe not realizing that there's a mom group in every corner, in every zip code, at every Starbucks, in every suburb of the country.
That's that zombie piece. So you're just repeating it, even like when you were just saying earlier about being soft, being man. Right, that's a zombie thing. That you just learn behavior, that kind of thing, and just naturally comes out, and that kind of I guess that bigger point, and how we portray things too is that leads down to breaking some of those zombie thoughts, and still that adage of the dumb dad, the dumb husband that's on the roof. Right. We still see in comedies, what we still kind of see in a generality. There's growth and progress, yes, and there's needs to still be more, and there still needs to be growth and breaking some of these stigmas in all facets, not just dads, girls, minorities, and everyone too. I think trying to find that ground of like all oppressed or not oppressed. It's usually somewhere in the middle. I think trying to grow and just try to spread that message and call that out. When even something small like that in a movie or in a show of not to go the total one direction there of like trying to get someone fired, but not try to go the other direction either. Like, play into it. It's just somewhere in the middle of like, no, we're moving forward, and we need to be aware of there is progress, and because of some of the things in America, that this is the new normal of your partner can, will, and does make more, and able to have better health benefits or whatever works better. I'll work second shift. It's how the new American family works. It's not been portrayed in how the CEOs and how it's all kind of looked in the past. It's shifting, it's changing, and it's growing. I think we saw a lot of that by what we're talking about in the weekend there of men from different backgrounds, different races, creeds, and I think that was important. I think that helps. I think that does give a good perspective, because we can kind of sit in our own little pockets of a cul-de-sac there and just kind of see what we see around us. So it's like, taking it to the next level of like, all right, we're away from family, we're feeling that guilt, we're doing something to try to better ourselves, and we're also seeing people of whether it's water from Phoenix compared to Milwaukee or
that's that Saturday in terms of like the guys and the diversity we saw. There was LGBTQ support, because I guess children, and I don't know if a couple of the dads were also had relationships that go on that category, but that was big, which I was happy to see in terms of people, being honest and open. That was nice. There was dads that were, getting ready for divorce. That was a topic. Marital, relationships, the difficulties of having kids and scheduling intimacy and things like that.
That's a big one.
That's huge for parents with kids.
And I always try to phrase it or kind of put it in people's minds when this topic comes up in this psychology therapy sessions of, if the roles were reversed, right? This kind of goes back to that zombie piece of like, if that was the dad working and the mom was sitting there all day and, like a Peg Bundy of anyhow. but just the right, like Dave, I feel like that question's been asked and been like, that's where Dr. Ruth and all the, those people in the '80s that was the lonely housewife and what was going on then. Now, like, well, it's the same thing. It's just not the other side. Because right, if your partner's working all day and you're home with the kids, and like, when do we have time for this? And they come home and they're ready for that. Like, no, I've had a long day. I've been putting the kids to bed and everything else, and you're just walking in here. So it's just, it's, I think even just hearing that sometimes it's like, oh yeah, it is. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's trying to create a better mousetrap. I don't know, but. Presenting DADennial. Ceasar was there. He was not a plant. I will put the video on YouTube when that comes out. So you guys can watch about presentation I gave just about the basics of DADennial with some of those ideas and thoughts and things we talked about in the podcast, things that I bring up, and we'll be working on finishing up the book for it. And what I want to talk about is more of what are those thoughts and ideas to work through you day to day, right? Whether it's box breathing, whether it's meditation, whether it's, as I was pointing out too in one of my slides, was I like doing still Wordle and Worldle. That's one of the things I put up there somehow because I studied maps so much in my childhood for some reason that I can just see an outline of a country and I can usually tell you within one or two guesses. So I think I put up like New Zealand and just randomly saw it and like, oh, that's New Zealand on the first guess.
Yeah.
Having those little quirks, having those things that are just genuinely yours, right? And just the day things that we like to do that, in a sense, if you had your Apple Watch or whatever you have on to measure your heart rate, you'll see it kind of go down. You'll see it in a more relaxed state because it's something you do every day. So it's a routine, it's built in, it's something that you're going to do. So it's a level of just calming dopamine,
right?
And just knowing all those things can help you. And yeah, I enjoyed giving the DADennial little lecture there that went the full hour. There were some great questions and answers after it there. A lot of good questions from some of the things that we're talking about there right now. Of, how do we find support? Where do we go? I felt privileged too of being a licensed counselor where obviously I wasn't giving sessions out, but just sometimes I even forget that you just don't know, right? You don't know what questions to even ask. So just having that place where you don't have to feel or like making a phone call and asking of, hey, I have this problem. Is this something a therapist do? Or where do I go to look for a therapist is one I got. But being able to kind of discern some of the information that I know just of places to go look for therapists, kinds of therapy, because I got questions too of like, I've heard this kind of therapy. What is that? Like right. Direct, here's where you can go to read about that kind of therapy so have a better inclination. And here's the facts of it, right? Not going to legitimate websites to find out more information. So,
no, you being there was huge. I think the fact that they invited you over there, that was fantastic. I think you were the only licensed counselor, I believe, weren't you? You're the only one that does it for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a lot of you provided a lot of good information, a lot of good insight from your presentation. And I'm gonna tell you something. The one thing that I remember from your presentation, somebody asked a question, and the way that they asked it, I don't exactly remember the verbiage they used, but you responded. You said, from your question, I heard a couple of things. One of the things that stuck out to me was how the person that was asking the question, he in some way invalidated his own feelings when compared to his wife's feelings about a certain situation.
Yep.
And you gave him a great response about the equality of the feelings. I don't know if you want to go into that. Do you remember?
I'm trying to go back. The general question, I think, was more about the giving of like, I give and give and give. Like, that was that kind of feeling or the sense of, and you just, that sense of that she either felt or there should be like more, and he was just trying to figure out how he could, offer more, give more, help out more. I think was the general idea of what was going on. And yeah, just hearing that thought process of I'm not hearing him, right? It's kind of taking the listening skills there of, yeah, I'm hearing about her, I'm hearing about the family, I'm hearing that you're trying to do everything for everyone, but leaving yourself empty, like leaving yourself with nothing left in the tank. And yeah, I mean, maybe you remember exactly what I said, but I think I was just kind of was using that kind of ideology of take that second for yourself to, ask yourself, like, what do you need to get by? What do you need to take care of yourself?
Right. And that was huge too. Like the way that I heard it was more like his, I guess, your response was about the quality of his feelings as it compares to somebody else. That it didn't matter who the other person is or what they were going through, but your feelings yourself are your own, and and you have a right to feel those feelings no matter how high or low they may be. Like that doesn't make anybody else's feelings more valuable than yours. Something like that. But it was good. It was good, and that stuck with me.
The reason that I feel like I tried not to go into like it's this tricky thing of once you're a therapist, and therapists can probably attest to this as I've talked to many, that your mind never stops being in that modality, because when you practice it, it's just like that's how you live your life in your mind, at least. It's like almost like the mind's like a six-pack, but the rest of me is just this. So like it's like the thing of like so it's always like you're always thinking constantly of listening and kind of hearing, and in that kind of setting too of that is something I have heard a lot throughout the years from working with men from young to old. I think that going back to that learning behavior zombie kind of mentality of like, this is what I know of, like I'm just supposed to do all of this, and my feelings, that would make me soft, that would make me you only know what you know if you don't know how to tap into that feeling, or even just have that thought in your mind of, oh yeah, right, my feelings matter too. And you maybe said that and heard that as a kid, but then somewhere evaporated your late teens into your 20s of, well, now I'm in the real world, I guess my feelings don't matter anymore, I'm a guy. I guess, it's just my friends don't really matter. I'm a guy, and, I go to college, I get a girlfriend or get my partner, and then I, get a good job, and the whole kind of thing of, I really think our age range, I say generation, but the age range, I think I feel like if you look before us, even a few years, you'll see that mentality modality still kind of holds true, right? I think that's the tougher ones. If it's like late 60s, early 70s, of there's still more of that prior generation because they had those opportunities. I feel like still in those 80s and early 90s of a job, 20 years, there's still some of that in there. It's been we were the first ones, I feel like, after college, and I know I was, and I feel like you were there too, of kind of going from job to job, just trying to figure out like, well, this one isn't right, that one place isn't right.
The 20s were hard.
Yeah. And I think what I see from my personal view, and also from what I see of the therapy world, I feel like we were the first kind of age range to kind of call BS of like, wait a minute, well, I have the college degree. Why am I still not making? Why am I still like in this job I could do without a college degree? Why am I pushing paperwork? Why am I? And it really just kind of, that was one of my first, let's say, quarter life crisis, but just those big things of like, wait a minute, so this is all BS. Everything I was taught, everything I was learned. I think this ties into it too, like the whole thing with the Barbie piece too, like being honest with myself and being honest, in this broadcast, and DADennial is part of this, is being honest to yourself. Is that was the first time I took that hard look of like, stop that zombie behavior of like, wait a minute, it isn't just 12 white dudes in a boardroom anymore. This is like competition from everyone. I have just me. So if I'm not the best, I'm not the most qualified, I'm not just getting a job just because. I'm not, this is you're not just because you're a college degree, just because you're this, just because you're that.
Right.
There's a lot, there was always a little recession too that went throughout, but yeah, it made me, I think it made you too, and it made a few of us that we know kind of scramble, but also just kind of start understanding ourselves, understanding the new culture, the new world that we're in of, all right, with Dad, we have to change, we have to kind of do things differently.
You still had the good old boys, you know what I'm saying? You had the guys that, legacy, that still happens. So you always have a job, even if you're out. For most of us, that's absolutely right. Like, you get all the ideas in your head, and that's just not reality.
The biggest phrase I feel like I stick with is that I learned that the middle class isn't given because you have a college degree. You still have to earn that middle class.
Oh, yeah, you do.
I feel like that whole lie pretty much to this day. And that's why I think we've learned too of, I'm not pushing my kids to go to college. I'm not, right? They're not that specific things do need that. Like, my wife is an accountant. I want to know what she's doing. So that's one, but it was always that zombie thought of you're going to get you to college because that guarantees you a middle class life. That guarantees you at least one car, maybe two, and at least a small house. But no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't get you anything besides still working at a bar or still working at Sports Authority. Gateway country for me, that's how old I am. I was working at the Gateway retail store, something I was doing pre graduation. So
yeah.
And I think kind of going back to the DADCon too, I feel like a lot of people, because of DADennial gives that thing to many people, and I've seen the responses and emails, and I've heard it personally and live and in living color of, well, it's just all millennials. I'm like, no, it's being a dad in this new millennial. However you want to say it, however you want to phrase it, it just kind of rolls off my tongue, and it annoys people, so that makes me happy for some odd reason. But yeah, is there DADennial or DADennial? And I even heard that too in DADCon too, when I was giving my presentation. And I was like, no, I just have to think about it, and that's maybe subconsciously even of why I create it and make it how it is and how it sounds, is to make you stop and think more of, what is this? Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, yeah, we are in a different world, right? It makes you stop, look, and think, and kind of see if, well, I'm not a millennial, so it can make you, make you feel mad. It can make you feel like I'm not this person. Like, it's just someone else who doesn't get me, doesn't support. But if you stop and you look and you listen, you can kind of see it, like, wait a minute. So we're all dads, and I got that kind of, the general kind of question, but I think I made everyone kind of stop, like, oh yeah, we are all the same. We're all on this boat together. We all have kids. It doesn't matter if you're born in 72, 82, 92.
Right.
Jeez, 02, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, jeez.
We're old.
One of the things, at least ran through my mind, maybe I didn't get it out during my speech, I wanted to say, if everyone there is already at a heightened level of awareness, everyone there is already one step above a lot, your average stay-at-home dad, your average dad.
Yeah.
Because you're aware enough to know of, I need that support. I need to go here once a year.
Yeah.
I want to better myself. I want to go listen to some other people talk. I want to hear other people's voices and ideas. I don't want to be stuck in my own cul-de-sac mindset. I want to hear more of other people. I want to learn. I want to meet new people. I want to hopefully hear new breakouts and learn sewing, whatever the case is. It's in that awareness level, because that's always the golden thread, kind of the crossroads in every aspect of therapy that I do, is the more aware that you are, the more that you're able to not need me, which is against therapy code, so to speak.
No, but that's the point, right?
Right, you're supposed to kind of be on your own. Like I've had plenty of sessions that they're kind of talking it out as we go.
Yeah.
And you're aware, you're understanding that. You can see and understand the words and understand the intricacy of like what's going on and how to work out of it, how to manage it, how to, you have the showing yourself you have the tools, and they have the tools, right? It's like going there, but knowing that they're aware enough and they're open enough that they're not soft, that that they all probably thought that way at one point. And to learn and to grow and to want to fight that uphill climb and try to earn it, whether it's middle class life, whether it's finding that piece of the puzzle for yourself of it's healthy and it's good, and it even probably showed you and probably helped you too of you now went through an experience without being there. And that's almost in a way can reduce your own anxiety of like, I know how to handle it now if I'm not here for whatever reason. I have tools now. I've been through it. Okay, I can get through this again now. I can remember what we did. I can reach out to Mike. I can do box. I can do other things now. Because there's going to be times in life where you're not always going to be there for whatever reason. You need support, and hopefully an experience like that for you, and hopefully the weekend for all of us was just a good vibe. I mean, Benihana to the Fonzie style food to we had a great steak there. We introduced you to marrow. I don't think maybe I only had marrow once, but that was quite delicious.
Oh, the bone marrow was fantastic.
Yeah.
You and I did indulge on Saturday, which is my cheat meal day. So I made sure that I did it right. Foie gras and a nice 18-ounce ribeye steak.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of food.
It was delicious. Well, I mean, you didn't really drink that beer. I mean, we went to Lakefront Brewery, which was a great tour. Yeah. They gave you a nice.
That was very interesting too. Like that brewery, the tour guide was great at that. What is it? The Lakefront Brewery. Mm-hmm. They had a section there dedicated to we saw the bronze Fonz. Arthur Fonzarelli there in statue. But then they had the Laverne and Shirley section in the brewery.
Of course.
And that was cool because I remember watching the show like on reruns and stuff with my mom when I was little. My mom used to like that show.
Yep.
And you had people there reciting like the lyrics of the opening song. And then they had the lyrics there. We all recited it because they had the brewery, and I guess there's a glove at the end of the opening credits or something like that where they're waving at beer bottles and something. But it was cool. Like, it was a good experience. Like, I would never go to Milwaukee for any other reason, really, like for nothing.
You can go to a Bucks game if that was going on now. They got.
Oh, that's true. Dame Lillard. I'm always a fan of him.
There you go.
But the sausage, the beer, the Bucks. I guess I got a reason to go back. What's the next Homedadcon next year? You know where that is?
So next year it will be in St. Louis. I think the dates are the 17th through the 19th. It got changed a week later. I already want to thank Keith and Danny and Brock and the whole board and the president for inviting me again. And I already got some emails from some of them thanking me and telling me, that got positive feedback and about going for next year and, if I want to add to it or things like that. So, I'll have to reply and hopefully I'll be able to, be there again and listen and grow and, throughout this journey of DADennial and family and everything we've kind of been through in life, I think it's good to kind of feel that calm for a weekend overall and feel that sense of trying to work on myself, trying to grow, trying to meet new people, trying to learn how to deal with situations differently, right? Because we can always improve some of our coping skills.
No doubt.
Well, I mean, I've got about 10 books on them, but hey, it's always at 11th or 12th to the shelf.
It's different too when you're hearing somebody's story as opposed to reading some kind of book or listening to a YouTube video. I mean, there were tears falling sometimes in some of these meetings and some of these, conversations and some of these tables that people were in. Like, it got like the barriers were broken down, and it was comforting, in a sense.
Yeah, it's an odd feeling being human. Right? That's really what it is, like stripped to the bone, human. These are what I'm experiencing. These are the highs and lows and everything in between that is my day-to-day. And I know from experience that is very, very tough. And I know I felt it in 2017 with my first son. I know that some days I struggle with it now. I think the one thing I wasn't able to bring, but I did take a picture. I put it on one slide, and as I said, it'll be up on DADennial on the YouTube page, and it'll be on DADennial.com too. Next week is I saw this a while ago, and for some reason I couldn't find another copy until just the day before, of course, of DADCon, and that was this poster I have in both my kids' room. It says "Be Present," and it's a bee, and then just a box of a present. And my kids like it because it's just to them, it's like just a funny thing of like seeing a bee and a present. And my oldest can read now, so now he's like, "What is present?" I'm like, "What's what Dad would always tell you?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, we would listen to songs at lunch." I'm like, "Yep, that was how Daddy would calm down. That's how Daddy just kind of slows his mind down." Or we're like, "Oh, when we do breathing, we do like monster meditation." Like, "Yep, that's being present." So that thing I put up there, like, we need those kind of cues to just kind of help us sometimes. That's, sometimes I don't even need to think. We just put something there that teaches our kids, but also reminds me too when I'm in their room of, this is the one day that they're going to be this age and old. Be aware, be present, take a mental photo.
Yep.
That's what on to the next millennial.
Yep. No, you came correct, man. You came correct. You, like I said, I think you're the only licensed therapist there. And they'd be lucky to have you, come back. Because I know that you gave a lot of good insight to a lot of people that, I know you can't do that whole one-on-one thing. Obviously that's not the setting for that.
Right.
But you do give them some avenues to explore in terms of, finding the help that they need at some points.
Just asking the questions. I think a lot of us, and that was one thing I wanted to incorporate in the podcast of DADennial at some point. And I think I need to kind of work on how to phrase it or something, but of like, ask a therapist is what I have in my mind of like, what's something on your mind? What's something that you've heard? Or what's something before you talk to a therapist that was like that thing of, I wish I asked, I wish I knew before, or like, why didn't I ask before? Like, why didn't I know this before? Like, right? Things that like, either too embarrassed or shy or just not sure, like, being soft or being like, whatever it is in your mind that kind of blocks you, but having that place where you can just ask that question. And that's what, for this too, I'm trying to hear some of those questions so I can say them on the podcast and I can try to help answer and kind of go along. People can get those answers. And that's one facet of doing this, one reason of even the things I didn't even know, even as a therapist, and knowing, like guys, I actually think I remember part of the question was kind of like, one of the questions I feel like one thing I heard was about, postpartum and about guys postpartum.
Oh yeah, postpartum.
Yeah, and that was something that, it's different, right? It's not the same as.
Yeah, because we don't go through the physical chemical change that the women goes through the whole birthing process, but it is different.
It's different, but it's real, and it's depressive, and it hurts just the same. It's it's debilitating, and just that awareness and just knowing if I need help, just knowing if something's not right, and asking those questions and getting the help and support can go a long way.
But you remember like the mentality of, you're there all day long with taking care of a kid while your partner's at work or whatever, and you're just feeding for some adult conversation. Just somebody say something that's not baby gibberish to me today. You know what I mean? Like waiting for your partner to come home just so you can ask how their day was, no matter how boring that is. But at least it's not a gibberish speaking baby.
I hear you. Yeah. No, and they're still few and far between. Like, you're probably the first conversation I've had with an adult that wasn't either a client or my wife in a week. Yeah. Last Sunday was the last time I talked to someone trying to going out golfing. So yeah, I mean, just realizing and understanding that, like, oh yeah, it's been 6 days since I've like not had to put on one of the hats of either dad, husband, therapist, just talking to someone,
Yeah.
On that note, hopefully tonight, hearing some of this has kind of helped you seek the support, ask the questions. That's why DADennial, DADennial. You can go to the website. There's a spot there you can send in for comments, questions, ideas for the show. And that's a place too where I'm going to continue as time allows to put kind of coping skills, things that we can do and hopefully places that I'll be speaking to. And if you're someone listening, obviously you can reach out to places that you feel like DADennial will be a good place to spread the word, so to speak. All right, thank you very much, Ceasar. I appreciate your time coming on. And I'm sure you'll be on again soon.
Yeah, thank you.